Living Local Carolina with Jessica Grace. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
On today's Living Local Carolina Financial Friday community panel, I'm joined by special guest Henrietta Golding in honor of Women's Month. Henry is a longtime friend of the credit union and a top-rated attorney. Henry is with Burr Foreman and specializes in employment, labor, and business litigation. She was certified by the state Supreme Court as a specialist in labor and employment law for over 30 years. Henry graduated from the University of South Carolina and was a South Carolina Supreme Court bar examiner for over 10 years, was a Wall School of Business Board of Visitors member at Coastal Carolina University, and since 2013 has been a trustee on the Board of Trustees for the College of Charleston. Well, Henry, for starters, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Well, it's my honor. Thank you very much.
And we just heard a lot about some of the amazing things that you have done in your career. What initially got you interested in becoming a lawyer?
Well, I think that started when I attended the College of Charleston. I became involved in student government class president, and then student body president. And because of that, I was involved in state conferences. I went to a national conference, and of course that was when the Vietnam War was on. And so I became very involved in legal matters, and that prompted me to go to law school.
Interesting. And I feel like so many people, who think maybe they're good arguers would be a good lawyer. When you were at the start of your career, what made you think that you would be, a good lawyer?
Well, I thought that my premise, and this may be probably not what you want to hear, but my mother was a very hardworking, brilliant woman holding down 3 jobs, primarily in the restaurant business. And I knew I did not want to be a waitress all my life.
Yeah.
I had to have a profession, and I did like the law and the government matters, so that's where I went to law
that's
school.
interesting. And then, starting, like you said, your mother was a waitress, and back then there, were not a huge opportunity for women to do different jobs other than, be a waitress or a teacher, things like that. What are some of the challenges that you faced in becoming a lawyer at the beginning of your career?
Well, I graduated from law school in 1977, 46 years ago. While that may not seem a long time to you, it is a long time.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to put your mind back into 1977.
Right.
When I was interviewed, I went to a number of reputable law firms in this state, and I met with several, and a number of times I had the senior partner say, well, Miss Golding or Henrietta, your grades look good, but I don't think we're ready for a woman.
Yeah.
And nowadays, even if someone would think that, you never would hear anything like that.
Yeah.
So the times were very different. And I was not aware of the Anita Hill, I was aware, but we did not espouse that. I accepted that, and I said, well, I understand.
Yeah.
So.
Which is interesting. And were there any people, as you were going to look, that played an influential role in your entrance into the law field and, really getting that first step?
Well, I was very lucky when I went to the College of Charleston, and I became President Stern at the college. He was a wonderful human being, and for some reason he took a personal interest, and he helped me and my sister go through college and beyond.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that really was.
And, and that's so important, even, today, that there are people that, help women to find their full potential and to get into those, important roles. And I know we talked about some of the different challenges, that you may have faced. Were there, did you come across people that were like-minded as yourself that, saw that there was a place for women in the industry and kind of helped you along?
Oh my goodness, the one person that comes out is Justice Jean Toll.
Yeah.
She was phenomenal for women in the state of South Carolina and the legal practice. Her philosophy was ladder up. You see someone, you help them up, you help them step up the ladder, and she did that a lot.
Well, and I'm sure over the course of your career, you've had major opportunities, to do that as well, which I think is super important. And are there any things that you can think of, in the beginning of your career that may have let you know that this was the right path for you?
Well, we had, as you can imagine, in the beginning of my career, I was very fortunate to be hired by Skeets Bellamy at the Bellamy Law Firm.
Yeah.
And he, you know, being a woman made not a factor, but
Yeah.
in his law firm, you know, there were some pushback.
Yeah.
But overall, it was very, very positive. And in my early years, I had a number of lawsuits that were influential.
Yeah.
I sued a law firm, not a law firm, excuse me. I sued a company, a large company
Yeah.
throughout the country for 2 ladies that were subject to sexual harassment.
Wow.
And the trial,
Yeah.
we went to trial. The company president said, never would I ever agree to settle or anything like that.
Right.
We got a jury verdict,
Yeah.
a very nice jury verdict. It was appealed. It went to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Wow.
And at that time, University of Virginia had a brand new law school.
Yeah.
And so this case was assigned to be heard before the student body at Virginia the law school.
Yeah.
And that was quite an event.
I'm sure. And I'm sure that really helped you at the beginning of your career.
It did. It really did.
And I cannot wait to hear more about some of the cases that influenced you when we come back from the break. Welcome back to the Living Local Carolina Financial Friday Community Panel. Before the break, we were talking to Henry about the start of her law career. And Henry, as your career began to develop, I know there are so many different types of law that people can go into. And you know, when someone says they're a lawyer, it can mean so many different things. As you began to establish yourself in your career, what was kind of the field that you felt most passionate about?
Well, I was fortunate in that I started to practice law when new law came up relating to employment.
Yeah.
Such as Americans with Disabilities Act. And then, of course, Title VII, the Anita Hill controversies, all those came to light,
Yeah.
meaning employment.
Right.
And in South Carolina and most of the nation, there weren't many lawyers doing employment
Yeah.
law. And so I established that niche in this
Right.
community, and I became, to a certain extent, the go-to employment lawyer.
Yeah, which is wonderful. And, you know, now things change so much. And I'm sure over the course of your career, how did you battle with, you know, employment law and different things coming up that were ever changing?
Okay. Well, one thing you have to do, and I'm sure it's in your profession too, you have to keep up.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't keep up, you're going to be lost.
Right.
But fortunately, the area of employment law has grown so much, and there's so many lawyers now in that area, so it's spread out a little bit more as far as there are plaintiffs' lawyers, there are defendants' lawyers, there's corporate lawyers, that all have their little niche within employment law.
Right. Well, and not only being a woman in the industry, but going into a specific sector, you know, within the industry that was kind of new and beginning, what are some tips that you might give other people that are looking to kind of break the mold, so to say, in their industry?
Okay. I'm going to start out with something more general.
Okay.
I'm going to say to the young ladies in today's world,
Yeah.
you have to be a professional.
Yeah.
You know, in my office, we have staff members who are wonderful human beings, and they're all females.
Yeah.
And they all have college educations,
Right.
but they have no profession.
Yeah.
If you are a female today, you must have a profession. And I think that will be true for 50 more years. Mm-hmm. Have a profession, be an architect, be an engineer, be a nurse, but have a profession, because you won't lose that.
Right.
So that's what I know that didn't directly answer your
Yeah.
question, but I need to tell everybody, every young lady needs to know, going to college is wonderful, makes you a well-rounded person,
Right.
but you need to have a profession.
And for you specifically, you know, you were kind of able to find your profession knowing, you know, what you didn't want to do. Do you have any tips for people that maybe don't have a profession right now and don't really know the route that they're looking to go and how to find the right profession for them?
Okay. Well, this is a truism, just work as hard as you can.
Yeah.
When I didn't know what I would be in employment law. When I joined the Bellamy Law Firm, I just gravitated. I found that there was nobody else doing it.
Right.
So look at where you are. See how you can make a difference and do something a little different than anybody else. And I think that's the key.
Well, and that was kind of leads me into my next question, was that, you have developed such a successful law career. What do you think, about you personally made you so successful in employment law or as a lawyer in general?
I think I hate to say this, hard work.
Yeah.
You've heard of the 7 Ps, haven't you?
I don't think I have.
You haven't heard the 7 Ps? Well, the 7 Ps has been a guideline for me, I guess, since I started working.
Yeah.
The 7 Ps, and excuse my language, are prior proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. I love that in my life.
I do too, and I cannot wait to hear how that has helped your career when we come right back from the break. Welcome back to the Living Local Carolina Financial Friday Community Panel. Since March is Women's Month, I am joined by Henry Golding, who is here to talk to us about her very successful law career and being a woman in a very male-dominated field. So, Henry, what are some of the different ways that you would encourage other women who maybe are just getting started in their career or are looking to change careers but have been intimidated about working in an industry that is male-dominated?
Thank you. Well, early on in my law practice, there were several incidents in which a male attorney tried to intimidate me.
Yeah.
An instance was I brought a lawsuit, and it was a very newsworthy type of lawsuit, and the lawyer for the defendant drove up from Charleston, wanted to meet with me. I didn't know what about, and I said, certainly. And he drove up here, and he said, Henry, I just don't think that you ought to be involved in this lawsuit. It's just probably something that you just need to step aside.
Yeah.
And of course, I was very nice to him, and I told him I thought he was a little misguided.
He must not have known you very well.
Well, subsequently, obviously, I wouldn't be telling this story, but I won the case.
Yeah.
But don't, be nice.
Yeah.
Don't be intimidated, and don't take it personal. I even had, many years ago, an individual, a man, he was walking out of the courthouse in Conway with his lawyer, who I've known for a long time, and he came up to me, the jury just socked him pretty good, and said, if you were a man, I'd knock your teeth in. I said, okay. I didn't say anything. His lawyer jumped in, but I thought to myself, had I been a male, he wouldn't have said that to me.
Right.
He would not have said that. And so, don't let males intimidate you. Don't let others intimidate you. If you believe you're doing the right thing, just go forward.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice. And I think there's so many men, who may be in the workplace that are not like the men that you just discussed,
Absolutely.
but are, in a position to where maybe they don't really know how to be allies. And I'm very fortunate at Carolina Trust, we have such amazing, male allies within our field that is a, male-dominated field. But for the men out there who want to be allies and advocates for the women in their workplace, what are some tips that you could give to them?
I think that just treat every person with respect.
Yeah.
Whether it's male or female. And Carolina Trust, when I first started doing legal work many, many years ago, Jerry Miller, I've known him socially and something, probably Rotary, I'm not real sure how we got to know, but he came to me and we talked. He introduced me to Jessica Wilson, and he came to me not because I was a female, but because I was a competent lawyer.
Right.
And I said, Jerry, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And Jerry then was retired, and Tim Carlisle, and I've met with Tim, and it's the same.
Right.
They look at you, they communicate with you in your profession, and they respect that.
Yeah. And it feels so good to, be in the opposite side of those shoes where you are working with men who respect and enjoy having, strong, empowered women in the workplace.
Yes.
And for the women that are in their workplace that want to, maybe empower other young women, what are some ways that we as women can lay the groundwork for other women to come?
I think that obviously, number one, doing your job, but don't act like a sissy.
Yeah.
Don't act like a wuss. I mean, just be yourself. Don't take things personal.
Yeah.
And do your job. I think that if we show signs of weakness, they'll think it's because you're a woman.
Yeah.
So don't show signs of weakness if possible.
Is, you hear all the time women uplifting women, and I
Right.
think by being confident and showing other women that you can work hard and that you stand your ground, and you're showing them, kind of leading the way in the sense of the way that you carry yourself and showing them how to carry themselves within a workplace.
I just want to say this, while I very much support women and help as much as we can, but I remember, the three persons who helped me most were men.
Henry, thank you so much for being here, and thank you guys for joining us at home.